what is real in college football going into week 3? We're going to talk about that right now, because right now it's so tricky to have a tremendous gauge for what is just kind of like some early season juice and someone who's out of the gates hot, like a Colorado or like a Florida State, or, you kind of go around the country here. We're going to try and get a good gauge for what's real. So the first thing that I think is absolutely real when it comes to the college football landscape right now, Sammy Hartman and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I know they've only played NC State as like their best real opponent, I suppose. No disrespect to Navy or Tennessee State. But what he's doing right now at Notre Dame has totally changed the way that we should view that Fighting Irish program. This is not Rudy's Notre Dame. This is not your granddad's Notre Dame. No disrespect to your granddad. But what we've seen from this team so far is a completely different look because of what Sam Hartman brings to that team in the vertical passing game. We knew they'd be tough. We knew that defense would be flying around and knocking people's heads off. We knew that run game was going to be tough. We know Joe Alt's going to make a whole lot of money playing offensive line in the NFL one day. But what Sam Hartman brings to the table throwing the football is exactly what you hoped it would be. And I think to put a finer point on that, Sam Hartman doesn't look surprised by anything he's doing. And he wouldn't, outwardly look surprised to begin with. But I mean, like emotionally, we don't see a ton of emotional excitement from him from what he's doing on the field. He's calm, he's steady, he's got an even hand, and we haven't really seen a bad quarter of football from him just yet. Like when you put a new quarterback into a different team, you would expect some acclimation period to occur there. And so what this says to me with how hot he's been to start, this tells me they had that acclimation period during the spring. And if you were locked into blueandgold.com, then you know what was kind of the report out of spring practice was, hey, Tyler Buckner's kind of pushing Sam Hartman. Hey, Sam Hartman's kind of taking a second to get his footing. So to have that be the report out of spring practice and to be the way that he plays right now in the fall, absolutely dealing the pill right now, that tells me the work he put in behind the scenes, the reps he got in behind closed doors after practice with Jaden Greathouse, with Tobias Merriweather, that's all paying dividends right now. And we're going to get to run them through a phenomenal filter week 4 when Ohio State goes to South Bend in front of Touchdown Jesus and everybody to get a really good gauge for just how dangerous this Notre Dame football team is going to be. But I'll tell you this, Sam Hartman, he is as real as it gets, and that makes Notre Dame, I think, as real as it gets as well. Cannot wait to watch what they do the rest of the way. You know what else is real when you look at the college football landscape? How about Keon Coleman? Keon Coleman and the way that he has acclimated to Florida State and been a just seamless piece of that offense with the transfer portal and how they've utilized that and how he's hit the ground running. I think it deserves a ton of attention. I understand they've only played like Southern Miss and the LSU game. They had secondary that was kind of trying to get their feet under them. But as far as I'm concerned, Keon Coleman is the best wide receiver in the country, not named Marvin Harrison Jr. That's saying something now. I mean, he now has the spotlight and the quarterback, I think, to totally maximize his potential. That's not a knock on Michigan State. It's not a knock on Peyton Thorne. I'm saying the attention Florida State is getting right now with a seasoned quarterback in Jordan Travis who can consistently deliver the football to him. And they have guys around him to take pressure off Keon Coleman to where you can't just double team him. He's going to, in my opinion, at this point in the year, I don't want to be hyperbolic, I would be wildly surprised if he is not a Blitnikoff Award finalist. That's how much potential he has, and that's how much I think they're going to make him a centerpiece of this offense going forward. So Keon Coleman, everything you've seen so far from him has been as advertised and then some, a one-on-one nightmare. Keon Coleman, absolutely the real deal so far in Tallahassee. Let's stay in the Sunshine State here. Let's go down to Coral Gables, Florida. And we all had a lot to say about the Miami Hurricanes early in the year. We had a lot to say about Tyler Van Dyke before the season even started. And it was kind of a curious thing. There were so many people just selling their Tyler Van Dyke stock before the year even got started because of what happened in 2022. And we try and keep it very friendly on this show. It's a lighthearted operation over here. It's a feel-good operation because college football is a beautiful thing and we celebrate it accordingly. But we're going to kind of call our shot here a little bit. We're going to kind of call some people out. There was a lot of lazy takes in the media around Tyler Van Dyke because people saw Miami go 5-7 and they saw them not have success offensively. And when you're the quarterback of a Power 5 football team, the finger gets pointed at you when the offense doesn't thrive. And that's okay, that's understandable, but it's still your due diligence to take a harder look at that offense and say, what was going on there? Oh, they couldn't run the football? Oh, they weren't protecting him? Oh, guys were dropping passes? Well, is that an indictment on Tyler Van Dyke, or is that an indictment on the tools around him? Right? Like, let's look a little bit deeper here. Tyler Van Dyke, in my opinion, was like a construction worker that didn't have the tools to build. And so everybody, as soon as he didn't have a product on the field to be successful, they were like, well, Tyler Van Dyke must not be very good. 2021 must have been a flash in the pan. What? What are we talking about here? And then you go and bring in a Shannon Dawson, and you go to the portal and you get some pieces on the offensive line. You plug in a freak show true freshman like Francis Mauigoa, and boom, we're off to the races. Funny how that works. Almost like Tyler Van Dyke was never really the problem. Now, again, this is people in the media that sold him down the river. Y'all that were tuned in here, y'all that are college football junkies and actually watched the sport, you were saying, man, get Tyler Van Dyke some help. Get number 9 a couple of weapons here. Get him some protection on the offensive line. Give him an offensive coordinator to allow him to thrive. And then they did, and then you saw them put up over 40 against a Texas A&M defense that brought back a lot of production that allowed 22 points a game last year. The same team that you scored 9 points against in College Station. Complete U-turn from this Miami offense, complete U-turn from the production for Tyler Van Dyke, but it was never really a Tyler Van Dyke issue. You know that, we know that, and now the rest of the world is getting to catch up to speed on that. Staying in the lane of talking about quarterbacks here, Quinn Ewers, man. You got to believe the hype now. I think Quinn Ewers is absolutely for real when you look at the 2023 season and what he's going to do to the college football landscape. And it was always a matter of we've seen it, but we've seen it in spurts. We need to see consistency. There is no more questioning if you can lean on Quinn Ewers if you're a Texas Longhorn fan. The question was always, is he going to be reliable? Are we going to get that 30 incompletion game from him in Stillwater, Oklahoma? Like, what does that look like? And what I saw against Alabama, I think legitimizes him to the nth degree, because there will never be a tougher situation for Quinn Ewers and this Texas team than what they got last Saturday night. And I don't want to keep reliving the past and keep, going back to the Alabama game, because it is just one game. They all count the same. I understand that. But they will not have a tougher opponent on their schedule until they get to the Big 12 title or the college football playoff or wherever they end up at than Alabama and Nick Saban. They will not have a tougher environment than Bryant-Denny Stadium at night, college game day there, Pat McAfee doing his thing on the sideline on ESPN2. That was exceptional. My wife was fired up watching that. She was like, Pat McAfee's entertaining. I don't even care about college football. So you had that whole circus around that game, and also the pressure around this game for what it meant for Texas, for what it meant for Quinn Ewers, for what it meant for Steve Sarkisian. The stakes could not have been any higher because of the way that the game went last year in the first quarter, where he steps out there, he's dealing, he's throwing it deep to Xavier Worthy. And to be real, it looked like the first quarter of what we saw in this year's game. So that kind of had expectations at an all-time high. And for Quinn Ewers, you were sort of running out of runway in your college career to prove everybody right that had spoken positively about him. And so to have him do what he did in Tuscaloosa and to have that mic drop moment, and I loved so much what he said when that camera was in his face after he took a knee, where he said, this is what we're on now. This is who we are. I think what you saw in Alabama that night was who Quinn Ewers truly is, and I think that's what Texas is going to be going forward. So a lot to unpack there with what's real. It's only week 2 heading into week 3, but even so, these are the things that I feel pretty confident about addressing as real. Like, I don't think we need to see a ton more to prove that these points are what they are going forward. Now, the beautiful part about college football is we get a lot more weeks to solidify these, but just so we're kind of ahead of the game here, so we're all kind of aligned together, these things, in my opinion, 100% real. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.